Driving Cuba's North Shore was absolutely spectacular. I'm going to start out first with photos from the dive, and then I'll show you how we got into the water. The beginning of our dive, it was a shore dive, was a long, slow descent, probably about 15 to 20 feet, and there wasn't a whole lot to see in this area. And here our dive master, Mitchell Morales, was showing us a little shrimp. And then once we got to the reef, a little bit further out, we saw such an abundance of gorgeous, gorgeous corals. I cannot even begin to explain to you the size of the coral growths in Cuba. They're massive. They're the size of small cars. And as with any dive, if you slow down and really look, you would see all sorts of little life. There were places like the swim through where you could go all the way through. You could see clear light above, around, all around you. And it was just absolutely spectacular. Another interesting aspect was that we saw absolutely zero trash in the water. We saw nothing. At the very beginning, close to shore, we saw a little bit of some fishing line that had been hooked, but other than that, all we saw was natural beauty everywhere. We recognized a lot of the fish. We had brought a book with us of different fish so that we could look some up. Some we didn't recognize, some we did. We ended up diving in only long sleeve rash guards and nothing else. The water was so warm, especially when you got towards shore where it was shallow, very warm. We were very comfortable when we were diving there in the summer and just having an absolutely fantastic time. Bill had learned how to zero in on the white balance on his Nikon camera, or his Olympus, and the shots that he got were just absolutely spectacular. Sometimes we were using an additional strobe light, sometimes not, but the beauty was amazing. We didn't necessarily see any really large fish. Mainly what we saw was smaller fish, so it wasn't like good fishing or spear fishing or anything like that, but it was fantastic for just looking, for just slowing down and looking. On this dive, there was one particular coral head that Bill and I agreed we probably could have spent all day long on this coral head. And like I said, this was simply a shore dive. We just walked out, went in the water, didn't have to pay anybody to do anything, although we gladly would have. And we were diving in 20, 30, 40 feet of water, and just the variety, the absolute stunning variety of sea life was just amazing. The way our day started was probably just as fascinating as the dive. It started with a full breakfast in our Casa Particulare, and then we headed in our van to a place that our dive master called Mosquito Headquarters, and this was to pick up tanks, and it was unbelievable. This was the people ahead of us that were picking up their filled tanks. I'd never seen anything like this. This car, these tanks, it was absolutely amazing. I did brush up on some Spanish. Bajo y ancho, short and fat is what they call these tanks. I didn't know whether to look at the cars or look at the tanks. I was fascinated by everything. This is the place where we were getting our tanks filled. I had a good look around, enjoyed seeing those old-time weights, which is of course what we used on our dives. I took some close-ups of the information on the tanks so I could look it up later, see if they're Luxfords or just what exactly they were. At that point, I really didn't want to know how old they were. And next time we go, we will take our oxygen meters so that we can double check that there's no rust or anything eating up all of the oxygen in the tanks. We knew that we were headed for a shore dive. We just didn't know quite what that was going to entail until we got there. And it was not exactly like walking down a beach. We ended up at a place that was all rocky, absolutely fascinating, kind of like moon rocks, just like in the Bahamas. And this was our entry point. And I had just read an article about jumping in, throwing your gear in, and then donning it once you got in, and how to get out. So I was kind of prepared for the idea that this might not be just a walk-in type of a dive. Mid-dive, we did have a fantastic snack of a bunch of mangoes. They were so sweet. I think we ate some before we dove, and then we ate some between the two dives. The diving was a lot of fun in that we actually sat down on the rocks and someone put our fins on for us before we jumped in. Absolutely amazing. After the dive, and you've already seen the photos of the dive, but after the dive it was a little bit of a traditional stop at a roadside stand where we were offered pina coladas. And the interesting thing with the pina coladas was they make a pina colada for you, and then they ask you, would you like some more rum in it? And then they simply push the bottle your way, and you're supposed to put in how much of a floater in it that you want. Absolutely adorable. And of course they offered refills. We had a little bit of fun using their Wi-Fi there, connecting back to the States, letting people know how our dive was. Of course, Bill had picked up the traditional hat, and we just enjoyed the ambiance. We enjoyed meeting the people. Yeah, of course, we always attract a cat or two. It was just the absolute perfect topper to an incredible dive. I can't say enough about diving in Cuba. Absolutely beautiful. This was the area where we had stopped for the drink. They had a lot of coral type pathways, really friendly people, just an absolute wonderful après, dive, stop. Here he is making me another drink. After that, though, we did need to go back to Mosquito Headquarters because we had to return those dives. I took some pictures of all of the elements in the office. I wanted to see what did their compressor look like, what does the dive operation down there look like. And this was actually more of a place where they're doing some studies, and so it wasn't necessarily one where you had a lot of people coming and going. It's just a place that we got our tanks filled, and they do a lot of, I think, science. Ecomar was their name. So that was our experience diving in Cuba, shore diving. We did a lot more shore diving when we went down to Playa Larga, Bay of Pigs, areas like that. We did take our own gear, but we did use their tanks, and it was just the most incredible learning experience. I can't even wait to get back there. So I hope you found this interesting. Hope this found this useful. If you're planning any dive trips coming up or hoping to get back to Cuba soon, you can check out my blog at Deepwater Happy. I have a lot of articles there about the whole process of getting to Cuba and what to expect once you get there, how to deal with the currency, things of that nature. So please like, share, subscribe so you get the notifications, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!